Let's create a low poly model this time. Very early in the game I'm developing, we encounter an evil forest spirit, a leshen with a human skull and tree parts as a body. It will be the first fight in the game and will immediately make clear that there are far more powerful beings than you in this world. As you can see, I made a quick sketch of the front and side views of the leshen. I have a pretty clear idea what it should look like. I got inspiration from these two images I found through images.google.com. After that, I imported a simple quad I use as a ruler. The height of the quad represents 2 meters or 6.5 feet. The monster will be quite large, I estimate around 3 meters. So in the battle, it will hopefully be impressive to fight. The whole model took around 1 hour and 20 minutes, so I sped up the footage to get something decent in length for YouTube and X. While drawing the sketch, I actually made a mistake with the side view and drew the monster facing right. I usually draw figures facing left, so they are facing me when I press the numpad, one button in Blender. At some point, while modeling the skull of the leshen, I got a bit confused whether I'm facing the front or back of the skull. The model is simple enough to just continue and try to remember to press Shift 1 instead of 1 when I want to see the front view though. Most of my modeling is done by manually creating all triangles instead of extruding quads in Blender. The latter is far easier and faster, but the quads need to be triangulated anyway, and this way I have complete control over which way the quads are cut into triangles. Sometimes the triangle orientation just doesn't work, while the other way around does. It is all a bit more labor-intensive, but I get the best results that way. In fact, when I try to model with quads, the outcome is generally really ugly. I mean, even more ugly than normal. So here I just follow the silhouette of the skull in side view to get a general feel for what I'm modeling and set up a mirror modifier for the mesh. I then outline the eye socket, and as you can see, the footage is now sped up some 5 times. For a PlayStation 1 game, you really have to take the number of triangles of a model into account. When you have a couple of models on screen, they generally can't exceed some 800 to 1200 triangles, or you'll adversely affect the FPS. For this model, I try to keep it below or at approximately 700 triangles, since the PlayStation also will need to draw 2 and eventually 3 more models, which are a bit higher in poly count. And it also has to draw the environment, although that usually consists of just a couple of very large triangles drawn before anything else. As you can see, modeling with triangles instead of quads, at least for me, seems to give me more freedom of shape. For some reason, using triangles invites me more to use a bit more irregular shapes. In contrast, with quads, my models all feel very squarish and flat, and I've never been able to overcome that. Oh well, no problem, since modeling with triangles is just fine. Some people say the subsurf modifier has trouble when using only triangles in the base model, but I haven't experienced problems with that. Anyway, the front of the face is coming along nicely. Now it's time to finish the back of the skull head and align several vertices so the mirrored mesh fits exactly. So, what do you think? How is the Ancient Blender challenge coming along? Do you still use such an old version of Blender for any of your work, or is a newer version absolutely necessary for you? Please say so in the comment section. Something I do think newer Blender versions do better than 2.49 is vertex selection. I suspect newer Blender versions have a preference for selecting vertices that are more related to the current selection than unrelated vertices. I mean, if 2 connected vertices are selected, Blender will select the vertex also connected to those vertices instead of another vertex that might be a bit closer to the mouse, it seems. Certainly a ease of use improvement there. However, I like that Ancient Blender starts so damn quick. It's pretty much instantaneous on my computer. On top of that, I failed to replicate that 90s pre-rendered background look that I want for my game with Cycles and Eevee, and Ancient Blender just had that out of the box. Also, while the materials node system is great, I almost always use a number of layered textures with some controlling both color and normals for bump mapping. This was quite the hassle in node-based Blender versions, while very, very easy with Ancient Blender. The skull is now nearing completion. Just some minor adjustments again to align the vertices to their mirrored counterparts, and of course the jaw that needs some more work and some tweaking. Usually after a while, and when I finished a milestone like this, I take a short break. In real time, half an hour has passed by now. What do you think? Is it a suitably scary skull for a JRPG from the 90s? Or does it need something extra? Well, I think it needs something extra. The skull needs some horns and thorns. Let's model those now. I am a bit lazy in this part. Normally one should make all the vertices connected, but here I just let the polygons disappear below the skull surface instead of nicely connecting the horns with the skull topology. That I'm cutting corners now might bite me in the ass later though. The PlayStation 1 doesn't have a Z buffer, and if one doesn't align polygons nicely, some Z fighting might occur, resulting in the obscured parts of the horn polygons becoming visible. It's something I need to remember when I finally am ready to port to real PlayStation hardware. But that will be a problem for later. The horns are sufficiently evil looking now, and I still need to fill the jaw part, so let's do that before starting with the tree body. Maybe now it's time for me to elaborate a bit about the game I'm making. It's called Harbingers of Destiny, and I conceived the original story after playing some Final Fantasy games, among other influences, in the late 90s, early 2000s. It's set in your typical fantasy world of kings and queens, where the two dominant powers are doing their best to keep an uneasy peace that has lasted for a bit more than 60 years. As the game starts, a young woman is found to stumble out of an evil forest, and rescuing her risks an international incident, which of course it becomes. And things gradually spiral out of control from there, despite your party's intention to desperately keep the peace. You start as a wandering mage called Strata, and she soon finds herself ordered to travel with Lamina and Lionel to the capital of Tessavara to explain themselves to the king. Along the way, she and her party find out far from all is as it seems. And what about Norhold? Which power is growing once more and apparently looms over each and every decision Tessavara royalty is considering? I am hard at work at making a true and proper intro FMV, complete with an orchestral piece and 240p computer graphics, some 1 minute and 45 seconds in length. Apart from that, I have finished approximately 50% of the starter zone, the village of Gering, where you team up with Lamina and Lionel. That might sound like not much, but actually a lot is in place already. Linux and Windows compatibility, and also FreeBSD and iRigs, full multi-layer pre-rendered background support, and menu pop-ups already implemented. The 3D engine, dialogues, scripting, cutscenes working. The next thing to tackle is the battle system. Anyway, I got my work cut out for me, I suppose. Back to modeling. The torso is coming along nicely, but I made a mistake earlier, where I forgot that I was supposed to mirror the torso mesh and had to adjust to make mirroring work again. You might also have noticed that, although I'm working with triangles, it looks a bit like quads, straight lines vertically and horizontally. With big surfaces, I still have a way to go regarding more dynamic topology and seem to fall back on what seems to be quasi-quad mesh building. I hope to improve, not merely in this case, but modeling in general. But that counts for drawn art also, big time. Do you want me to show some live drawing sessions as well? Please leave your comments below. Also, if you have any suggestions about what you want me to talk about, coding, drawn art, 3D art, music creation, I'm dying to know. About coding, the engine is programmed in C. Since I plan to eventually have this engine run on real PlayStation 1 hardware, everything from the poly count to the C language used to the samples I made for music is geared toward that goal, although right now it only runs on Unix and Windows, on OpenGL and DirectX. I try to foresee what is possible on PlayStation hardware, but I might be wrong in some sense. I will find out eventually though, and when I do, I'll find the fix and keep you posted. At this point in the modeling process, I was planning to make the whole leshen levitate and have the wood transition to some kind of dress of some kind. You'll see that I will model the lower end to curl upward. However, in hindsight, I think I was better off modeling the torso and arms as bark and hands and feet, so to speak, as bare sapwood that can move. You will see what I mean, I guess, when the FMV and the inciting incident part of Harbingers of Destiny is finished. Either that, or you can follow my YouTube or X account and see the progress there. The arms look really square if you see how they are modeled. Funnily though, in an environment where the textures are just rendered as is, without applying lighting, this can be made to pretty much be invisible to the beholder. Also the CRT, the old-fashioned telly the PlayStation was created for, the pixels, so to speak, were smeared out enough to make the pre-rendered backgrounds and real-time poly models blend into each other. An inherent feature which was sadly lost when we transitioned to digital TV signaling and LCD displays. Now, I'm not saying to go back to tubes though. I used to have a lot more headaches staring into CRTs than modern displays. At this time, while modeling, I'm trying to split the bark outward so the sapling tree hands can be exposed. The hands will stretch and hit the opponents, while the leg saplings I plan to add later will move the leshen around in the arena. I read the pre-rendered background mode was called Field by the Final Fantasy developers. The fight mode was called Battle, and the overworld was called World. Before I knew, I named my equivalents Scene for the pre-rendered backgrounds parts, Arena for the fight mode, and World for the overworld. The model has pretty much come together by this point. I'm modeling the sapling hand strands and try to combine polycount efficiency with what one will see on the screen. Still, I'm generously below my projected 700 to 800 polycount. Previously, especially with Strata's model, I was already very proud to keep it down to 1,800 triangles, while Lamina's were 1,800. Clearly, the Innkeeper of Hope's End Tavern was a great leap forward for me, needing only 1,260 triangles, and the Gering Soldier having a poly count below 540. What I'm trying to get at is that practice really counts. Really, a lot. Do you want me to show the Innkeeper in detail or the Gering Soldier? At this point in the modeling process, I really am dying for a break again. So any improvements on this model, now some 1 hour and 10 minutes into making it, will come later, and I will discuss that in a later video if you want me to. The last part I'll add in this video is some branches growing from the back of the leshen to make it a bit more menacing. The branches won't move independently, which will keep its complexity down, but will hopefully nonetheless add to the menacing imagery, along with some added thorns and spikes. Another thing I will probably do next is fill up the arms, since they are now hollow. Just one of the little details to change later when I have a fresh look at the model. Should I also make a video challenge to texture the leshen? Or should I do another modeling challenge, but this time to model Lionel, the border guard that joins your party very early in the game? Unfortunately, I already modeled and textured Strata and Lamina earlier, as well as the Innkeeper and the Gering Soldiers. Some models I still need to make to finish this part of the game are the Mayor of Gering Village, Norholt Border Guards, and some other Norholt character that will actually save the day. Okay, that's it for today. What do you think of the video? What can I add or do better? Please let me know in the comments, and I'll be back in the next Ancient Blender Challenge.